Hi, I'm going to show you how to make silk ribbon embroidered roses that you can use on a papercraft project. So I've got some surf here. This is silk embroidery ribbon foundation. You can get this from craftyattic.com. I'm using an air erasable pen and I'm just drawing 3 circles where I want my 3 roses to be. And I've got some 2mm pure silk embroidery ribbon and a chenille needle. You can get chenille needles from us as well at Crafty Attic. Chenille needles have sharp points on one end and fat eyes on the other end, and you need these for silk ribbon embroidery. So I'm just putting a little knot in one end and I'm going to clip it nice and close so that it's nice and neat on the back side. I'm going to start off on the edge of one of these circles and I'm going to make 5 spokes into the centre of the little circle here. This will be actually the centre of the rose. So you must have an odd number of spokes, so I'm using 5. You'll see why later. This is a really simple, easy, no fail way to make your silk ribbon roses for your papercraft projects. So I'm just gonna now do the other circles in exactly the same way by putting 5 little spokes in with this 2mm pure silk embroidery ribbon. You can't use any other type of ribbon to do this because it has to be silk, and then only silk will fold small enough for you to pass it easily through the canvas that we're using here. Anything else just won't pull through for you. Silk has a nice fluidity about it as well. It does pretty much what you want it to do. So you can get silk from us here at Crafty Attic. We post free around the world provided your order is over £25. Okay, so there's our 3 little spokes. I'm just going to wind this ribbon in on the back a bit, just like you would with any other sewing, just to fasten off the thread before I cut it off. So there, clip that off nice and neat. I've now got some 7mm white silk embroidery ribbon. I'm just running it through a set of hair straighteners. You can iron it if you don't have any mini straighteners. I just find the mini straighteners are really handy when I'm doing some embroidery. So I've put it onto another chenille needle and I'm just making again a nice little knot in one end and clipping it off nice and tight. I'm going to come up through the centre of these spokes. I'm now going to change the needle for a blunt one, so I'm just going to use a blunt tapestry needle. And now I'm just going to weave. So over and under these spokes. These are so easy to do, they look so beautiful when they're finished. They're really quick. You can just sit in front of the telly and do a few of these ready for any card projects or invitations that you want to send out. You can make them ready for scrapbooking, anything that you want to use them for. So I'm just winding and winding and winding, over and under. This is why you must have an odd number of spokes. As you go round, you continuously form the weave of the rose by going over and under. So you want to keep going round as far as you possibly can before you actually can't stuff any more under these little spokes, so that your rose is nice and big and fat and it kind of spills over the edge of the circle that you drew. So I'm carrying on now, finding it a little bit tougher to find the ends of these spokes, just lifting it up with the needle. This is why you want it blunt for this part. You don't want to accidentally sew through any of those ribbons because it'll pull your rose out of shape. So I'm just continuing as far as I possibly can with this bit of ribbon. I'm now going to swap for a sharp needle just to make life easier when I'm trying to thread this through. So I'm just poking it, taking it to the back of the canvas and just winding it in a few times or weaving it in a few times on the back just to secure the end of the silk ribbon, and then just clip that off nice and tight. So now I've got some 4mm silk embroidery ribbon. These are for the smaller roses that I'm going to do in this little group. So you can do, if you want bigger roses than this, you just use 13mm ribbon and draw a slightly larger circle to start off with. It's all very easy. So again, I'm treating this ribbon exactly the same way as I did to the 7mm, so I'm just putting a chenille needle on one end and tying a little knot on the other end. I'm going to bring it up through the centre of the tiny circle there, and I'm going to weave in exactly the same fashion. I haven't put the blunt needle on yet, but I'm going to have to in a minute. You'll see why. So the blunt needles are just standard tapestry needles. You can pick them up pretty much anywhere. So there's, I'm going to have to swap now, I think. The reason that you can't easily use a sharp needle for this is you get it caught in some of the ribbon, and then the ribbon won't flow and it won't weave easily. You need it to be completely under or over these ribbons without actually catching any of the threads in them. So I'm just going to continue with this in exactly the same way as I did before, just winding around and around. You really can't get these wrong. You don't, if you want a tight little rosebud, then pull the ribbons tight. If you want a nice big open tea rose type thing, let your ribbons be nice and loose. They'll look good no matter what you do. They just look fabulous, these. So this canvas that I'm using is Silk Embroidery Ribbon Foundation, and the reason we're doing it on this is so that we can actually cut these roses out and then just stick them onto any papercraft project that we want to. The canvas will not fray, and it will just hold the silk ribbon embroidery exactly where we want it to be. And these are nice roses to make for papercraft projects because they do sit flat. Some of the other ribbon roses that you can make are more 3D and they don't lie flat, so they don't lend themselves very, very well to papercraft projects at all. So I'm just carrying on now with this little tiny rose. I just want you to take a note really of how far I'm going with winding these ribbons around, because you want them to be nice and full and you want the spokes to be completely covered on the back. So even when you think it's getting quite tricky, you can still find a little spoke there to poke the ribbon underneath. So I'm just going to continue doing that one. So I've got two pro markers here, Sunkissed Pink and Dusky Pink. And I'm just going to touch the rose with the fat end of the pen, let the silk draw up the ink, and then just use the slightly darker colour to touch the tips of the petals. And that way we get a nice effect. We get a nice realistic effect on these roses for their colour. I think I'm going to use a slightly different colour on the large rose, so that's a pastel pink. I'm going to do exactly the same as I did before. Just use the darker pens to colour the tips of the roses. I'm going to use the darker one again just to colour the tips of the petals. So now all I've got to do is carefully from the reverse clip away the excess canvas, so that all I'm left with when I look at the front is the actual little silk roses. I can't see any of the canvas that they're put on. So you want to make sure obviously you don't clip through any of the spokes and you don't clip through any of the petals. If you clip through a spoke, the whole thing will start to unravel, so you need to be reasonably careful while you're doing this. You can see a lot of this canvas foundation, the surf there, a little will go a very long way. You don't need very much of it at all to make these little roses. So I'm just going to continue to clip those out. So I'm just going to continue now to clip away any of the excess canvas, make sure they look nice and tidy from the front. And I'm going to use these on a wedding place card. So I've printed a little wedding place card off on the computer, very simple little thing. And then I'm just going to stick the little roses to it. I think that looks absolutely cute. So just use some adhesive, whatever it is you've got, just place some dots of adhesive on the back of these roses and then just adhere them to your papercraft project. So you can get all the materials you need to make these little roses from the Crafty Attic website. We've got a link where you can actually get the Pro Marker pens if you need any of those. So thank you very much for watching this film. I hope you have a crack at doing some of these for your papercraft projects because they're really fun to do. And thank you very much for watching this film. I'll see you soon with something new.